Paula, it's also very much the great work that you and your team have done along the years. I mean, you've produced a lot of great content, and I think it's a gift to the industry. The first being the fixed mindset, where people believe that your intelligence is something that is set at birth and cannot be changed. And the second is the growth mindset, which promotes the idea that we can develop our abilities through effort, feedback, and resilience. I would hear your interviews with various thought leaders in the profession, and it really inspired me and gave me a lot of challenging thoughts. So it became a companion. I would like to broaden the topic of loyalty beyond loyalty programs, but really looking at the customer experience and how do we get more loyal customers. It's so important to plug in and to lean in into something and something that really is a testament of your values and also inspires you to be your best self. And really, one of our founders says is that, your ambitions, they're worthwhile, right? There should be no reprimand for being ambitious.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV. It's Paula Thomas here, and I'm delighted to be today chatting with Nyeleti Sue-Angel Nkuna, a customer loyalty strategist with a proven record helping blue chip global brands forge deeper connections with their customers. Nyeleti is originally from South Africa and now lives and works in Copenhagen. In today's episode, we are announcing Nyeleti as our latest guest host of Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV. Throughout our conversation, she will share her professional background and how she fell in love with loyalty, as well as some of the extraordinary guests she has coming up for you. I hope you enjoy today's conversation with Nyeleti Sue-Angel Nkuna. Enjoy. So, Nyeleti, welcome to Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV.
Thank you, Paula. It's great to be here.
It's absolutely incredible. And honestly, I feel this is a match made in heaven. You unexpectedly, I will say, reached out to talk about the idea of maybe becoming a host on our show. And I thought I had a full panel, but when I heard the stuff you've done, I just thought, my goodness, we need to work with her as well. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for taking that up, first of all, Paula. It was one of those things where you just shoot your shot, and here we are. I'm so glad that we can work together, and I'm excited about what we will do in the future.
Indeed, indeed. So we have a lot to get into today, of course, just to give our audience a good sense of your background, what you're doing, what you're going to do. But as you know, of course, we always start this show with a very open question, trying to understand, I suppose, a bit about you as a leader in loyalty. So kick us off, Nyeleti, and tell me, what would you say is your favorite book that you've ever read or that you're reading?
So there's a lot of books, and I had to think deep with this question, but the one book that I wanted to highlight, because it's one that I keep going back to, is Mindset by Carol Dweck. And many would know the book. She talks about two mindsets. The first being the fixed mindset, where people believe that your intelligence is something that is set at birth and cannot be changed. And the second is the growth mindset, which promotes the idea that we can develop our abilities through effort, feedback, and resilience in learning. So, every time I read this book, it's very liberating. It almost gives me permission to challenge the systems and my own internal self-limiting beliefs at times, right? Whatever the structures that could be around me as well that set supposed limitations. For example, in a fixed mindset, when one goes through failure, that might seem like that's the end or a verdict on who you are as a person. So, this is who you are, this is where you belong. But with a growth mindset, failure is an opportunity to adjust, to try again, and to grow stronger. So returning to this book, Paula, keeps me curious, and it's one that I would recommend again and again.
Amazing. Well, listen, there's not very many guests that tell us they're rereading their books, Nyeleti. So thank you for that. I've definitely heard the concept, I will say, and in a lot of different ways. I like how you framed it, so positively, obviously, for yourself, admitting to having self-limiting beliefs, which I definitely have. And even actually yesterday, I was interviewing somebody and he was on our show very early on. And I remember being very intimidated by him because he's such a big name in the industry. And yesterday he told me that he felt like an imposter when he joined me. So there you go, two of us. Yeah, so it's super funny, but it goes back to your point. At the end of the day, he had the growth mindset, let me show up in a podcast. And I was just like, I'm just going to interview everybody who will let me. So it's super cool. Definitely putting it on my reading list.
I think so, and especially in the world that we are in today, where there is just it's almost, very necessary to continue to think about where else can I go into, because if you remain in the same field with the same knowledge, and you definitely won't be future ready. So it is just a good book overall in terms of really getting into new spaces, and wherever you're in a place where it's new, there's always going to be that element of an imposter, that messy middle of trying to figure things out. But the growth mindset is just that, I would say, permission to try again, to invite feedback, to learn from your experiences and grow therein.
Amazing, yes. And it's definitely what I've seen and heard from you, Nyeleti, in terms of your own background. You have embodied this growth mindset and definitely massive change in terms of what you've been doing professionally. So, given that we're here to introduce you as our latest guest host of Let's Talk Loyalty, let's dive straight in now to your background, and all the way back to the very beginning, because I think you have some very unique skills, in fact, that I don't have, and definitely helped you shine when you sent that message to me. So, talk to us about where you've come from and what you're doing.
Absolutely, and it's been a wild professional journey, but I will first pick on the part on the geography. So I am South African, but I live in Denmark. And so maybe that's the first thing to put on the table, being able to work and live in different, almost contrasting, yeah, geographical areas, and be able to adapt to different systems and different ways of working. Um, Professionally speaking, I started my career in TV broadcasting. So I spent the first years of my career in a lot of TV and film sets, working with Ogilvy and Mather, the advertising agency, and I did a lot of work for Unilever, Coca-Cola, KFC, really as at that point, a junior TV producer. But it was a very good entry in terms of above the line marketing and being able to create those big blockbuster TV ads, and come home and watch them and know that I was part of that. And
Yeah.
then I went from the above the line TV broadcasting into more digital marketing. So I've worked in a number of different agencies that have had different focuses. So I've worked in one way the focus was SEO, and we did a lot of content marketing. I was also involved in building a YouTube channel for that particular company, and we in the first year organically grew to 1,000 subscribers, and this is like more than 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Then I went into a healthcare marketing agency where the focus was around looking at how do we brand ourselves towards talking to healthcare professionals and all of the regulations that are involved in the marketing side of healthcare. Then I've gone into, yeah, digital transformation, and especially around CRM, marketing automations, as well as loyalty, which is the field that I'm in right now. So I've worked within the agency consultant side with top brands like, Ford, Shell, as well as Nestle. So different industries, but really looking at what is that connected customer experience across various digital touch points.
Mm.
So it's been a very interesting journey, but the thread, I would say, Paula, is really looking at what is the customer experience,
Mm.
despite the channel, right? So how do we meet our customers and give them a very compelling value exchange to engage with us. So
Yeah.
whether it's in TV or the SEO marketing or looking at the CRM journey, I think the customer has been at the center of many of those conversations.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, to round it up, today I work for a company that will be quite recognized by most people, the Lego Group, where I am the CRM channels and content expansion manager, which is a very exciting role with working with a company with great values.
Yeah.
And while, now that we're talking about Let's Talk Loyalty, my position here wouldn't really be to talk about the content that we're going to be discussing from the perspective of my current employer, but more really just taking in a lot of the experiences I've had across the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, my goodness, what a whirlwind. And I often think of TV and digital as the opposite ends of the marketing spectrum. So I do like that you connected the dots for us, I suppose, in terms of that, having the customer at the center. I've never had the big budgets of TV. So to me, that's always been something that's, I guess, quite aspirational. And I suppose we're getting a little taste of that with our own show here. But thank you. And I suppose thanks to Lego as well for allowing you to do this, while being very clear that obviously you're not on our show in any way connected with your day job, that your opinions, of course, are going to be totally your own, but still very kind of them. There's a lot of brands, I think, that wouldn't be comfortable with having somebody with your expertise speaking unless they were signing off on absolutely everything. So big shout out to you guys and thank you for doing this. And of course, we'll make sure anytime we're talking about you, it's you as an individual. So that should cover all of that off. And again, amazing experience. And of course, the final point on that side is you are an expat, as you said. So I love that, like me, you've left your native home. You've gone and created a new life in a literally radical part of the world, radically different part of the world. What actually originally brought you to Copenhagen, Nyeleti? Was it a specific job or you just liked, I don't know, Scandinavia, or what was it?
I knew very little about Scandinavia when I moved to Denmark, but again, it goes back to that growth mindset.
Okay.
After spending a lot of time on TV and film sets and in the very creative side of the business, I wanted to take up a business education. So I decided to apply for an MBA in South Africa. At the time, my dream was to do it internationally, but that wasn't possible for me at the time. So the next best thing for me was to take an exchange program, which I did with Copenhagen Business School. And it really was just a lucky guess. I was looking for a country that was completely different from my own so that I could get a really good cultural exchange. At the time, I had started to hear a lot about Scandinavia as a whole, but I knew nothing about Denmark in particular. But within the Scandinavia region, Copenhagen Business School came up as an amazing business school. So I applied for that one, and it so happened that I got in. But it was really just a stroke of luck. I didn't really give it much thinking beyond that. But
Okay.
years later, I'm so happy it is because in so many ways, I think Denmark compliments me. It's a very easygoing and especially Copenhagen, a very easygoing city, very vibrant, very metropolitan in everywhere, but still has a sense of coziness and calm about it, which I really enjoy.
Wonderful. My goodness. Well, please God, I'll get to visit you at some point there now. Actually,
Oh,
I'm
you
love
must.
overdue. Absolutely. And while
Yeah.
we're talking about Scandinavia, then, Nialeti, I think that is one of the, I suppose, other ideas that we, I suppose, co created in terms of you becoming a host on this show. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But just as we're talking about, the region of Scandinavia, I think I said to you that I started my content creation journey as well, working for a Scandinavian company. And it blew me away how accomplished and how just extraordinary some of the businesses are that are coming out of that part of the world and yet don't seem to maybe realize how good they are, or else they're just too humble. They just don't want to be seen to be bragging. But I think that should change. There's companies like Spotify, there's like King, the games company. But is that your experience as well? Because to me, it's just incredible that they don't seem to even understand the power of the marketing they could do for themselves, given what they're achieving business wise.
It's a knowledge-based economy, so there's a lot of good knowledge and a lot of innovation coming from Scandinavia. But as you've also alluded to it, it's not the most braggadocious part of the world. So there's a lot of really great innovation, especially around fintech and digital-first companies that are coming up and really, I would say, challenging status quo in terms of being more efficient and driving just more effectiveness around the topic of AI and digital transformation, but at the same time, very much not not as loud as you would see it in other parts of the world. So when we talk about loyalty, I'm really fascinated by companies like Spotify, Joe and the Juice, really good companies that are transforming the way they talk and address customer needs through technology, through just being very present,
Yeah.
especially in the digital pocket.
Yeah.
But it's very subtle, and I think it has to do perhaps with the culture of Scandinavian people, right? Very humble, I think, but very smart and sharp and ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. Yes, actually, it used to frustrate me a little bit because I would see that humbleness and I would like, there's so much good stuff to say here, guys, but they actually just didn't really want to. So it was a case of me really showcasing some of the achievements. But as you said, super smart. And yeah, there's lots to tap into, which I know you're going to do now, of course, as a host of the show. So I guess that's my next logical question for you then, Nyeleti. Why did you reach out to me and want to be a host on Let's Talk Loyalty? I was thrilled, as I said, but I always love to know why people want to get on board with us, given that we're like in this tiny little niche and it's a lot of work. It really is.
And I think you've said it. It's a niche within a niche. The loyalty marketing conversation. And when I started to do more work that was related to customer loyalty, I definitely looked around me of where I could get inspiration and knowledge to supplement the knowledge that I would be getting in project, right? And Let's Talk Loyalty was one of those podcasts that I discovered through that journey. And I would hear your interviews with various thought leaders in the profession, and it really inspired me and gave me a lot of just challenging thoughts. And so it became a companion with the work that I was doing.
Mm.
And this is like maybe 2 years ago that I've been listening to the podcast. And over the time, I saw that you had new guest presenters, and they were in different parts of the world. And so as I followed the progress of the show, I thought maybe we could do something around Scandinavia, because that wasn't really represented.
Yeah.
And given that I do live in Scandinavia, and it has a big influence in terms of my life personally, but also in terms of the way I work today, I thought I could bridge that gap. So that was an interest, but also coming to a place where I feel that I have knowledge to give and to share as well. It'll be a great opportunity to contribute to the industry.
Yeah.
But I must say, I mean, Paula, it's also very much the great work that you and your team have done along the years. I mean, you've produced a lot of great content, and I think it's a gift to the industry.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think you already won my heart when you use the word companion, Nyeleti. Like I love that idea that what we are doing and what I set out to do was again coming from that place where I wanted to learn. I guess the growth mindset actually coming through again. But I really could feel that there must be other people that want to have this knowledge. They want the access. So the idea of us being a companion is very, very rewarding, I have to say. So thank you for that insight in terms of how we've been able to keep you company. I know people have talked about us being, in their kitchen in the mornings, in their bedroom at nighttime, which was a bit weird. But it is wonderful because it is just a conversation. Like that's how we love to be on this show.
And conversations are a great way to learn. In the marketing organization, it's not uncommon for the CRM and loyalty team to sit on one side of the office while brand sits on the other side of the office, and operations on another side of the office. And while we all have the same objective, there's not enough conversations
Yeah.
happening between. And as long as those silos exist, we may fail to adjust the real customer needs,
Yeah.
and especially bring in brand affinity together with the loyalty mechanics, for example. So I
Yeah.
do think there's power in having those conversations and continually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And increasingly, actually, you mentioned AI earlier as well, Nyeleti. I think the human voice will become even more respected and loved because we have that authenticity. So to me, no matter what happens in terms of I feel like people will want to listen to your voice, they'll want to listen to my voice. And you also touched on that lovely insight, which I remember somebody said off air once for me, that loyalty is a very lonely business.
Mm.
We do have, very specific responsibilities, an awful lot of budget responsibility. But actually, you have to bring the whole organization behind you, and particularly senior people. So the more we can facilitate that, absolutely, as I said, warms my heart. And what I'm hoping to do now that I'm stepping away from the microphone I guess, is find other ways to create those connections, create maybe in-person conversations or online conversations. I don't know what else we can do for the industry, but you're absolutely right. It's not just the podcast for me. It is a case of how can we continually educate and inspire each other. So thank you for being part of that journey and taking on this hosting responsibility. And I guess the main big question then, for our audience, you've talked about Scandinavia, the amazing insights in the region. Is that the kind of content that you're hoping to create for Loyalty TV for us? Or what are you thinking in terms of the guests you're going to have on?
So I am firstly trying to get as many good voices that are passionate about the topic of customer centricity and
Mm.
how loyalty comes into it, right? So I would like to broaden the topic of loyalty beyond loyalty programs, but really looking at the customer experience and how do we get more loyal customers and how do we get customers to come back, right? And
Yeah.
so those voices might not necessarily have loyalty manager
Yeah.
on their profile, right?
Yeah.
But those are voices that I think that as loyalty professionals, we need to be having conversations with. So I'm looking to speak to a wide category of profiles within the marketing area, and whether they're in the product side of the conversation or in the CRM part of the conversation or in brand marketing. But how do we collectively put all our efforts to drive a strong, compelling customer experience that brings customers back?
Yeah.
Looking at different intersections within that part. And in terms of who they are, because I live in Denmark and Scandinavia, there's going to be definitely a lot of people that I will leverage my own network, black book as such, and co friends and friends of friends within the environment that I'm in. But I'm also curious to just hear like exciting voices wherever they are in the world, right? So if you
Yeah.
are passionate about the topic of customer loyalty and
Yeah.
you have a unique perspective that's compelling, that's a little bit
Mhm.
provocative as well, and that makes us just sit on our ages a little bit different, then those voices are most welcome.
Indeed, indeed. And actually, something we haven't maybe emphasized enough in our episodes. Well, two things. First of all, we do have a guest nomination form on our website. So if anybody's listening to us today and goes, I'd love to be on that conversation, do an interview with Nyeleti, please go to letstalkloyalty.com, find the guest nomination form, send it through, and I'll obviously connect everybody to you. But the other piece that I think is brilliant, and goes back to, I suppose, my original thinking, like, Let's Talk Loyalty was named in that very open way that you've described. Like, I always wanted to have the permission, I guess, in terms of how we position the show, that we could talk about different things that influence customers' behavior. And that's exactly, I think, how, again, we're totally aligned. It doesn't have to be brands that have a structured mechanic in place, whether it's points or games or whatever else. If anybody is innovating and executing on the promise to the customer and seeing that that is driving business results in terms of retention, then absolutely, I want those conversations to be held on this show. So I feel like it's coming full circle from my point of view as well. As I said, I'll be hanging up my microphone very soon now that I have this amazing global panel. So yeah, I think that's really cool. I know you've got a couple of guests already lined up. We're going to be releasing them actually quite soon. So please God, in October itself, October 2025, we're going to start having you on camera. So not being the guest, but actually being the host. And actually, I will say, I always prefer being the host rather than the guest. So thank you for today. It's actually harder, I think, isn't it, to answer the questions when you're used to being on this side of the camera.
Absolutely. It's not the most comfortable experience because when you're asking the questions, you can really just, absorb all the knowledge and just like, oh, like, what about this? What about this? What about that?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
this is also fun too.
Amazing, amazing. Well, listen, I only have one final question then for you, Nyeleti. I always love to get a sense of, I guess, what people, are most proud of in their professional journey. You've done a huge amount of different things. Again, as you said, back to your TV days in South Africa, through all of these incredible roles, whether it's consulting or, in your current CRM role. But if you had to pick out something that you've managed to achieve in your own career that you feel inspired by, and that our audience should hear about, tell us something you're really proud of.
It's a big question, and there's so many different moments that I'm proud of. Very significant turning points in my careers that helped me to just readjust or think differently about how I want to present myself to the world and to my colleagues around me. And many of those lessons actually happened in the tougher times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, being an expert, you start in my experience at least, right, there was times where I've had to restart, where I've had to kind of like take a different direction because the initial one didn't work. And
yeah,
then being at that place, it's okay, what now next, right? This didn't work out. So how do I go to the next thing? And I think most people that pursue careers out of their home country would have had the same experience. But I think the one thing that I would want to talk about that I'm most proud of is being part of an organization called ProWalk, Professional Women of Color. And it really just inhibits so many of these experiences that we have as experts and really taking that bold step of leading a career outside your home country, finding a network, finding people that steer your ambitions in a positive way, but also make you accountability partners to you to keep you on course. So
yeah.
ProWalk is an organization that is designed to support and inspire women of color to really be their best professional self. And we have three pillars, and that's to connect, to grow, and to evolve. And
Mhm.
we really create spaces for visibility and impact. And it's an organization that I've been part of for
Mhm.
the last 6 years, and
Mhm.
I currently serve as the vice president. And it's just an honor to be part of this amazing group of people. And we have lots of allies and supporters and friends within Denmark that are in different companies and are sponsoring the work that we're doing and cheer us on. So that's an amazing organization and something I'm very proud to have been part of that organization from the very beginning.
Wow, my goodness, that is so inspiring. And of course, we'll make sure to link to that as well in the show notes, Nyeleti, just in case there are other, professional women, as you said, seeking a network of that kind. I think we all do need that peer-to-peer support. And particularly as we get more senior in our careers. I've actually just joined an accountability group myself here in Dubai, which I'm finding super inspiring. Gives us a lot more work, of course, to do alongside the day job. But congratulations on the work with ProWalk. Seems to be incredible. And you've mentioned to me a couple of the people that you're networking with through that organization. So again, brilliant to see that you've got access to that kind of brain power. That whole idea that we become the average of the five people we spend the most time with.
Absolutely. It really is. And it's so important to plug in and to lean in into something and something that really is a testament of your values and also inspires you to be your best self. And really, one of our founders says is that, your ambitions are not, how does she say it, but they're worthwhile, right?
Mm,
There should be no reprimand for being ambitious. And so to find
yeah,
yourself in a collective where your ambitions
yeah,
are validated
yeah,
and you get tools in
yeah.
order to pursue that. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, again, I think we have a lot of values that are aligned, Nialetti. So super inspiring to talk to you today. I don't have any other questions for our audience in terms of the big announcement and bringing you on board, but I suppose welcome is the most important thing to say from my side. I'm thrilled you did reach out. Thrilled that you're going to be hosting these episodes every month for us. Is there anything else you wanted to say from your side before we wrap up?
Just a big congratulations to the team at Let's Talk Loyalty. I think the work that we are doing is amazing and long live, right? And I'm excited to learn more about what you plan to do on the other side of the microphone, Paula.
Absolutely, Nialetti. Honestly, there's a million ideas bubbling up. I just need to channel them now and have time to progress them professionally. So, with all of that said, Nyeleti Sue-Angel Nkuna, thank you so much from Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV.
Thank you so much, Paula.